So, relationships can be tricky,
Yeah.
right?
Tell me about it.
Yeah. And then you throw in something like a chronic illness.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that adds a whole other layer of complexity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're diving into today,
Okay.
figuring out how couples can navigate those waters, make it work, and not just survive, but actually thrive.
Right, right.
We actually found this article that's packed with tips all about maintaining strong relationships, even when chronic illness is part of the picture.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, and right off the bat, they emphasize something that seems pretty basic, but I think we all know it's easier said than done.
Hmm. With that.
Communication.
Oh, yeah. Communication is like the cornerstone of any relationship, right?
Totally, totally. But, it feels like there's just saying we need to communicate more, and then there's actually doing it in a way that's like truly helpful.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what does really good communication look like when we're talking about chronic illness and its impact on a relationship?
Well, that's what I thought was so interesting about this article.
Okay.
They dive deeper into what they call like open communication.
Okay, I like that. Open communication.
Yeah.
So what does that mean exactly?
Well, the way I see it, it's kind of like building a bridge, right?
Bridge. Okay.
Yeah, a bridge of understanding between the two people in the relationship.
I see.
So it's not just about practical stuff like, hey, can you grab the medication, or do you mind doing the dishes tonight?
Right.
It's about creating this space where both partners can really talk about how they're feeling.
Yeah, the deeper stuff.
Yeah, all those fears, anxieties, the stuff that maybe doesn't get said out loud but can really build up over time.
Oh, absolutely. One partner might be struggling with the physical limitations of their illness,
Yeah.
but the other partner's silently dealing with all the emotional baggage that comes with being a caregiver.
Hmm.
And if they don't talk about it,
Uh-oh.
it can create this like invisible wall between them. Resentment can build up. It can be really damaging in the long run.
That's so true. And this is where the article really emphasizes something called active listening.
Active listening, okay.
And this is where I think a lot of us could use a little, brush up on our skills.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about like hearing the words.
Right.
It's about actually taking the time to understand what your partner is saying, what they're feeling.
I think a lot of people, and I know I've done this myself, we're so quick to jump in with solutions,
Oh, yeah.
right? Or reassurances. But sometimes that's not what our partner needs. They just need to be heard.
Exactly. And sometimes I realize I'm not truly listening. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say next.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. We've
Yeah.
all been there.
Yeah.
But it's in those moments, those pauses where we really listen, that true understanding can happen.
I love that. True understanding. And, speaking of understanding, there's another thing this article brings up that I think is so important in this whole conversation.
What's that?
Patience.
Oh, patience.
Yeah.
Ever elusive patience, right?
Right. And they actually call it a superpower
A superpower. I like that.
for couples dealing with chronic illness.
I've thought about it, and it makes sense. Because in any relationship, patience is important. But when you're dealing with chronic illness, it just takes on a whole new level of meaning, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's because chronic illness is so unpredictable.
Oh, absolutely.
One day you can feel fine, like your old self, and then the next day, boom, you're hit with a flare-up.
Exactly. And those constant ups and downs, they can be tough on both partners. It's like a roller coaster you never really get off of.
Mm.
And to be able to roll with those punches, to support each other through those unpredictable moments.
That's where the superpower of patience comes in. I actually really loved an example they gave in the article.
Oh, what was it?
So they were talking about this couple,
Yeah.
and the wife had chronic fatigue.
Okay.
And they started to use humor to deal with, the unpredictability of her energy levels.
Okay.
They would joke that her energy levels were like the stock market.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Up and down, you never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. And it just helped them lighten the mood, to adapt to that ever-changing reality of her illness.
That's so important. Finding ways to, laugh together, not take things too seriously all the time. It's such a great coping mechanism. And, it brings up another really important point from the article, which is that support needs to be a two-way street.
So it's not just about one partner taking care of the other.
Right. It's about recognizing that chronic illness, it affects the whole relationship,
Right.
not just the person who's sick.
No.
Both partners have needs, and those needs deserve to be met.
It's so true. I can imagine it's a delicate balance, though,
Oh, yeah.
to be able to support your partner without making them feel like a burden.
Right.
And then also knowing how to ask for support without feeling guilty. Like, how do you navigate that?
That's the tough one. The article had some good advice on this, though.
Oh, okay.
They said, instead of just saying, I need help, try being specific about your needs.
Specific. Okay.
Yeah, like instead of saying, I need help with the chores, maybe say something like, I'm having a really rough day with fatigue. Would you mind making dinner tonight? It would be a huge help.
Oh, I love that. Being specific, it takes the guesswork out of it for both people.
Exactly. And it can make it easier for the other person to feel good about helping.
That's a really great point. And this idea of support, it kind of ties into another topic the article talks about that I thought was so fascinating.
Okay. What's that?
It's this whole concept of intimacy beyond the physical.
Hmm. Intimacy beyond the physical.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about, sex.
Right, exactly. And I think this is especially important when you're talking about couples dealing with chronic illness. Because there might be times when physical intimacy is difficult.
Absolutely. But intimacy is so much more than just the physical, isn't it?
Yeah. So what does that look like? How do you cultivate that kind of intimacy when maybe physical touch is off the table?
It's about connection. It's about those deep, meaningful conversations you have late at night.
I love that.
It's about, just holding hands and watching a sunset.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. Or sharing a laugh over a silly movie.
Mhm.
It's those moments of connection, those shared experiences that really foster that sense of closeness.
It's making me realize how often we have such a limited view of what intimacy means.
Right. It's so much more than just the physical act.
Absolutely. And it's something we can all work on cultivating in our relationships, chronic illness or not.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's really about nurturing that emotional and even spiritual connection. The article also touched on something that I think can be hard for a lot of couples.
What's
The idea of seeking help outside the relationship.
so like therapy or support groups?
Exactly. I think there's still a stigma around seeking professional help or even just talking to other people who are going through similar
Yeah,
challenges.
I could see that.
But the article really made a strong case for why this can be so beneficial.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, first of all, a therapist who specializes in chronic illness can provide so much valuable insight. They can teach you coping strategies, communication techniques, all sorts of things that can really help strengthen your relationship.
Yeah.
And support groups.
Yeah.
They can provide that sense of community, that feeling of, hey, I'm not alone in this.
Oh, I bet that's so validating.
It really is.
Yeah.
It can be such a powerful reminder that you're not the only ones going through this.
That's so important. It kind of normalizes it.
It does, yeah. And it can help you realize that seeking help, it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. It means you're willing to do whatever it takes to make your relationship work.
I love that. It's a sign of commitment.
Totally.
Well, we covered a lot of ground today.
We did?
We talked about the importance of really open communication, the superpower of patience, how support needs to be a two-way street, the amazing world of intimacy beyond the physical, and the value of, maybe getting a little help from outside sources.
So much good stuff. I think if I had to pick one thing to leave our listeners with, I'd ask them to think about this.
What's that?
What resonated with you the most?
Mhm.
What one piece of advice would you give to a couple who's facing the challenges of chronic illness? What's the one thing you feel could make the biggest difference in their journey together?
That's a really great question. Something to really ponder. And on that note, we'll wrap up for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Thanks for listening.